Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Rez Podcast, the show where we have honest conversations about dating, relationships, personal growth, and the decisions that shape our lives. Today, we're looking at love and relationships through a completely different lens. How much of finding the right person comes down to our choices, our habits, and the work we put into ourselves, and how much of it comes down to timing, circumstances, compatibility, and plain luck. My guest today is Howard Miner. Howard is an author, husband, father of three, former nationally ranked darts player, marathon runner, golfer, chess player, guitarist, and someone who can apparently solve a Rubik's Cube under 20 seconds. He's also the author of The Dice of Life and the Role They Play. Howard uses what he calls the dice concept to explain how our lives are shaped by a combination of circumstances, natural abilities, personal choices, effort, and probability. His philosophy is that we cannot always control the hand we are dealt, and we can never guarantee a particular outcome, which is huge in my opinion. What we can do is improve our skills, make better decisions, and increase our chances of achieving the life we want. Howard, welcome to the Rez Podcast. Thank you for being here.
That was just the best introduction I've ever heard. Like, I don't even have to talk now. That just summarized everything. So well done.
I'm known for giving the good intros, Howard. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, well, great. Yeah. No, that's great.
Howard, when I learned about your dice concept, I immediately thought about modern dating. We can't control who we meet. When we meet them, what kind of childhood they had, what kind of experiences they shaped them, or whether the chemistry is going to be there. But what we can control is who we become, how we communicate, what standards we set, what behavior we tolerate, and how carefully we choose a partner. So today, I want to apply your philosophy to dating, love, marriage, and human compatibility.
Yeah.
How does that sound?
Great. Oh, yeah, that's why we're here. This is great. Yeah, good setup.
Amazing. So let's get right into this. Is finding the right partner mainly about good decisions, or is love ultimately a roll of the dice?
Well, it's a little both, actually. It really is. So let's back up a few minutes, and I'll go over the analogy to begin with, and that'll help kind of like set it up, and so you just visualize everything. So now, granted, this is not based in clinical research or anything fancy. I mean, there's a lot of psychologists that have 57 personality descriptions and love languages and all that, and those are all great. But I found in my life that sometimes the most helpful things that we come across are just the simplest, just a simple idea, simple word or phrase that just, I don't know, it's just easy to remember, and it just helps explain things if you just go back to it. So like you said, I'm married, father of three, and like everyone else, we've been through life and all sorts of different experiences with people and relationships and business, and it's wild out there. You really know. So what kind of came to me when I was trying to simplify relationships in general is that my brothers and we grew up being really competitive, and we were always gambling on something and everything, and it occurred to me that a lot of the elements in our life are kind of random, like a roll of the dice. So I started applying that theory, or that just that little mental picture, to basically everything about us. So if you think about it, you start with things that you're born into, say where you were born. You have no control over that. It's just a random number you get. You're stuck with it. You have no control over who your parents were. Things like your genetics, things like your family's economic status. Those are just pretty much assigned to you at birth, and you're stuck with those. So those are numbers, and you basically assign all those different variables as a roll of a dice, and you start collecting them and you put them in your bag. And now you get into other things in your childhood, like who were your childhood friends? I mean, that has a huge impact on how you develop and what your morals were, and your values your parents instill on you, and even if you had parents at all. And then we get into a lot of things that you have natural traits and natural abilities, like are you athletic, or are you really good at music or art? Some people just have a natural ability in those things. So those are all like little rolls of the dice that you get, and you start collecting all of these things. And as you grow, you start to see that all these little dice interact, and there's a lot of dice you can't control, but there's a lot of dice you can control. So the idea is to kind of identify those things, and then try to, bump up your numbers a little bit, develop good habits and skills that help give you better chances when you're facing a challenge. If it's a work or life in general, or a relationship, you kind of it's never going to be a guarantee that it's going to work out, but you can do a lot of things in your life to help bump up those odds and give you the best chance available. So that's the basic scenario.
So Howard, thank you for that. That's
Good.
amazing. This resonates so much with me. I always
Good.
say this stuff to people, but so here's the thing. How do you ultimately use the dice theory that you have in your favor? Like, for example, how do you use that in your favor in general?
Perfect. Excellent.
Right? Like
Okay.
that's kind of
Well, there's a whole bunch of advice out there that people come across. Sometimes they take it, sometimes they don't. A lot of simple things you can do to help your chances in life, like eating healthy, or exercising, or learning a skill like how to type on a keyboard. Like those are really good, like little habits that kind of bump up your odds. You can practice things like patience, things that like just allow you to adapt better. They're like little odds and ends that I mean, there's tons of information out there, all these tips and tricks and all these things. But the trick is to really build the foundation of skills that will lead to other skills too, like learning how to read. That's an amazing skill that opens up the doors for all these other skills. And on the flip side of that, there's a lot of things you can do in your life that actually downgrade your odds. If you have certain addictions or drugs and alcohol, you can choose to kind of like, stay away from things that aren't good for you. We have a natural ability in our lives to gravitate toward things that really are not good for us. It's the sinful nature they talk about it, or whatever your bane is. We think we're good, but there's a lot of places we can get in trouble too. And that's why we try to keep our kids out of trouble, because there's a lot of downgrades that they can come across in their life that we keep them away from. And again, we're just trying to get the best odds we can. So you're just trying to bump up those numbers.
Okay. So I guess I'm a little bit like when you said let's reduce the alcohol, let's all that's okay. So I'm gonna be a little controversial here and just
Okay, good.
So for me that means, what about the luck then? So
Aha.
we always hear about this lady who smoked cigarettes all her life. She lived
Exactly.
till 90. Isn't that ironic? Alanis
Well,
Morissette.
absolutely, it sure is. Right. And that's the part about it's not a guarantee. But if you had 100 people that smoked a whole bunch of pack of cigarettes, every day, probably most of them are, going to have trouble, as an example. So there's a difference between an outlier and the majority. So again, it's odds and probabilities. So if you eat a healthy diet, I'll give you an example. My father-in-law, he was an unbelievable athlete. He competed in the Ironman triathlon. Just it's a
I've heard of
hundred
that.
and it's I can't even get my head wrapped around these things. It's like 2.6 mile swim, and then 110-mile bike, and then you run a marathon. Like I get tired even thinking about it. It's crazy. It's
Yeah.
just out of his mind. So he was a tremendous athlete, but at the age of like 47, he got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, terminal illness. He did everything right. I mean, this guy was a machine. He ate right. He was super healthy, exercised 7 hours a day, and he got a bad dice roll in there. He got the bad luck that even though he did everything right, it still didn't matter in the end. And that's the catch on it, because anything can happen. You can do all the right things. One of the greatest phrases I ever heard was in an episode of Star Trek. It's an old show. A lot of great philosophy in that show. And Captain Picard once said, like, it is possible to make no mistakes and still lose. That is not a weakness. That is life. It's pretty profound when you think about it, because you can do everything right, like playing a game or something, and we're all playing a game in this life. You're gambling whether you like it or not. So you're just trying to have the best odds you can, and that's true in relationships and personal development and business. But it's never a guarantee. So that's kind of how you have to think about it.
Howard, thank you for that.
Oh, good.
So in general, the podcast is about dating and relationships.
Yeah.
I mentioned that before I hit the recording, but if somebody's doing everything right, they're taking these self-improvement courses, they're talking to dating coaches, they are working on themselves all the time. I hate
We
that
all
term.
are. We
It's
all
like,
are.
yeah, we're doing that till the day we die, but it's just become such a cliche at this point. But you
Sure.
know, how much control do we have in our romantic outcomes? You know what I mean?
Well, we have some, we have a lot, and some of them we don't. Again, it's a mix. It's a combination of a lot of things. But one of the best things that we can do for ourselves is essentially kind of like learn our own dice. Take some time to think about what are our skills, what are our habits, what are our traits, what are our preferences, who are we as a person because of all of those dice in our bag. So when you know yourself, you begin to recognize, some of your weaknesses. You may know that you're not a patient person, or you may know that you're looking for some individual that does this or that, and those, we all have different, I don't know, different brain chemistries and different desires and different things. And one of the best things to do to start out with is to learn about yourself. And that only comes by trying different skills and trying, different types of relationships and things, and finding out what more about yourself than the other person. That's really a great place to start.
Yeah, honestly, this is this is such a common theme that is
Mhm.
throughout my podcast. Every guest I have on is like telling people they should just it's a self thing.
Mm.
Everything is about you, and that's how you see the world, is like from internally, the way, you know what I mean? So
Correct. Yes. Well, that's because, yeah, because everybody has a slightly different worldview. I mean, we have a different dice in our bag, right? So we all have different experiences. We all have different aptitudes, different responses to trauma. Somebody can have, a traumatic experience in their life that would affect them this way, and somebody else could have the same experience and it may not bother them as much. So there's a whole variety and range of how we develop as humans to be able to interpret the world in different ways. And I think where this gets into trouble, where we get into trouble with this, is that too many times we try to compare ourselves to other people. In other words, what worked for me must work for you. And this person is doing all these things. So therefore, if I do the same things, am I going to have the same outcome? Absolutely not, because we just have so many variables. Even circumstances outside of our control happen to us. So it doesn't make any sense for us to compare results that somebody else got, because we have a different character. We're playing this game of life with a completely different character. And therefore, that changes our strategy. That changes what we try to take on, because we have different abilities. So we're going to take on a challenge that's more suited towards our character as our dice are kind of floating around up there. So a lot of people make the mistake of trying to play somebody else's game, if that's the way to put it. But I mean, there's a lot of things we can learn about from other people, like what worked for them, techniques or skills or habits, and those are all great. You can learn a lot, but you really need to understand yourself to know how they apply to your own situation and to your own self. And that's I don't know. It's good advice, I think. But
okay, question: Did you ever watch the show Seinfeld?
yeah, I watched many episodes. Yeah, great.
My favorite show of all times. Okay,
Yeah,
so
it's
yeah,
very clever.
yes, it's like the recipe of life, in my opinion. Like
Yeah, for
every
sure.
show is like, you know.
Yeah.
So, for example, let's say George in Seinfeld, right?
Hmm.
Larry David in real life. He's not traditionally the most good-looking guy, right? Jerry
Right.
Seinfeld is, but George
Right.
isn't.
No.
So, if we were to apply these concepts, like George, if we were to apply the dice concept to George versus Jerry versus Kramer,
Hmm.
right? Those
Big
three,
differences.
let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, let's dig that.
So, for example, George, he's got this energy about him that women like.
Hmm.
Jerry Seinfeld has this energy about him. Kramer, he's like on a different level. Like he's so
Yeah.
authentic and just so himself.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit. What do you think the difference is if we were to apply this theory of this dice stuff? What George has, he doesn't have the looks, but he has
No.
maybe a personality. Jerry has the looks. Let's talk about that. What's your take?
Well, yeah, I mean that's exactly it. Those are amazing characters. Like they just really they accentuate what their character traits are. I mean, they all had different personalities, but they pushed it. They embraced it of their differences. And, that kind of gave them the confidence to say, hey, I'm like this. This is how I am. Let's see how far we can go with it. And they kind of pushed it. And, character with George, he was always funny. He was always, moping around, being frustrated with himself. Really, but you loved
He
it.
embraced it though.
He loved it. Yeah, it was great. And there was just something about that confidence that that just made it attractive, you could say, because it was just fun to see. And yeah,
When
and
you said
that's
confidence, right? But
yeah.
George would describe himself as insecure.
No, he was
No,
insecure. He thought he was, but the character himself was just confident in that presence,
I see
right?
what you mean. Yeah.
So
Okay.
it came out as being confident in that in on confidence. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's hard to
Exactly.
explain. So
Yes.
even though he was, a buffoon or something like that, you still
Right.
loved him because
Right.
it
Right.
was just embraced that way. So
What about
yeah,
Kramer?
Kramer. Oh man, brilliant character, just off the
Yeah.
ball, bouncing over, staggering everywhere. It's great. Yeah, it's the same kind of thing. He's a crazy doofus, but it was brilliant. So you get attracted to that just because it's just an amazing, again, it's a confidence of just, whatever. And it's really interesting when you think about that because yeah, I don't know. I've never thought
Jerry.
about that
Let's
way,
talk about
but you're
Jerry.
right. Jerry, okay, he was just a, calm, cool, collected person.
Mhm. Mhm.
He would try to crack jokes and just, state the obvious, and
Mhm.
everyone loved him for that because that's just who he was, and it
Mhm.
just kind of
Mhm.
worked. But the
Mhm.
dynamic of all three of those, even Elaine too, she had her own quirks and everything, but that chemistry was just, it was really neat how they all worked together, and that's how the show survived. Actually, they just worked so well together that it just worked out. So yeah, no, it definitely applies, and yeah, that's a good analogy. I never thought about it that way, but it's good.
I
You're getting
love
there.
it because the characters, their characters, like it was just so real and so applies to real life. Um, so Howard, let's see. Yeah, we're just looking at the time. How can people improve their odds? We talked about a little bit about how people can improve their odds a little bit.
Mhm.
So let's talk about a little bit about the social media stuff because
Yeah.
like I know, for example, for me, I don't fall into that trap of comparing myself. Like
Mm.
I don't, I really don't. Am I lying to you right now? Am I being lack of self-awareness? I don't know.
No, and no, I think,
Yeah.
and here's the catch 22, because I think it is good to compare ourselves to others
Okay.
because we can learn a lot. Like if
Mhm.
we see something that a person has, their confidence or their habits or their focus or drive or something, we absolutely definitely want to emulate that. But again, where we get into trouble is we pick and choose what about them we want to be like on social media. You don't get the whole picture. Like they look great, they're jumping up and down, they're really great or whatever, but you have no idea what else is going on in their life, what traumas they're dealing with. Are they even a nice person? You don't even know. So you can't pick and choose, your people you look up to, because there's bits and pieces that you certainly can, but you have to be very careful because there's always more to the story.
So question, if you were hiring somebody, do you hire people or I don't know, I forget
Um,
what
I,
what you do.
I've been in those positions. Most of my
Okay.
career has actually been in healthcare IT. Pretty boring, but
Healthcare
there's
IT.
that.
Okay. So here's the thing. I'm an IT consultant for my daytime job.
Mm.
I sell Azure and things like that.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so here's the thing. Instagram, you say it's not genuine enough, right? Because people are putting on a show. Now, my
Hmm.
question is, if you were hiring somebody, are you going to like, for example, look at their LinkedIn? Yes, they got the skills, right? The skill set is on LinkedIn. The professional shit is on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But how does Instagram help you determine their personality? Because look, we live
Well,
in an AI driven world.
oh my
Personality is
gosh, yeah.
everything right now.
It's funny. This wasn't even an issue, several years ago, and now kids, like, I'm old enough to know that like we actually we protected our privacy. Like we didn't want our whole lives, online. And I grew up in a time where I'm really glad that YouTube wasn't around because I did a whole bunch of stupid stuff that I'm really glad isn't out there. And oftentimes, but now, that's just out there. You're
Mhm.
trying to get
Yep.
likes. You're just
Yep.
whatever it
Yep.
takes, no matter. And that that creates your image like
Mhm.
forever. Like
Mhm.
it follows you, and
Mhm.
you really have to be careful. And again,
Mhm.
maybe
Mhm.
that's a good thing to help your dice. Maybe
Mhm.
think twice about stuff before you do something
Interesting.
silly or stupid because, when you build up your reputation, that's, one of the most valuable things you have. We see this all the time with celebrities. It doesn't take very much for people to actually actively look for something to tear them down.
I see.
So,
I see.
but if you set yourself up
Mm,
with being a respectable person,
mm.
people don't remember what you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Okay,
I mean,
but here's my look, Howard. How do you be authentic then? If you're like, if like, look, we all, not we all, but some of us
hmm
drink, some of us smoke cigarettes, some
yeah,
of us
yeah,
go to church on Sunday,
hmm
some of us go whatever. So what I'm trying to, some of us party on the weekend. So why is it bad to show that side of us on Instagram?
because it depends on who's looking on the other side. I mean, if whoever's hiring you may think that that's acceptable, and somebody else may not, and very few people like actually know what authentic means. I mean, that's a whole subjective term in itself. But um, if your hiring manager also parties on the weekends and understands
Mm,
and relates to you, I mean,
mhm,
that can be a good thing. Then you're a very relatable person, and
mhm,
that's someone you
mhm,
can get along with. But if your hiring manager is really uptight, micromanager,
mhm,
whatever, then they're going to
mhm,
have a completely different,
mhm.
criteria to look at. So it
Okay.
it really depends on what the person is. And the funny thing is, it all circles back to dice because whoever's
Mm,
hiring you has their own dice in their head because they have their own expectations of what they're looking for and their own experiences in business and relationships. And maybe they'll be more forgiving, maybe they'll understand what you're going through, and maybe they'll be more subjective based on their own experiences. And applying for a job, you have no way to know that, of course. But it's interesting how our dice kind of come into play there, because that's what kind of steers our relationships of being able to relate to someone with the same values and the same kinds of experiences, as almost like a hidden language. One of the uh, one of the great experiments that I like to bring up is high school. Everyone's been through high school, and there are all these cliques. You have the jocks and the nerds, and the burnouts and everything. And what we notice is, like, people they kind of congregate to other friends and people that have their same similar dice, because it's easier to relate to people that have the same kind of worldview that we do. So they associate with people of their same, kind of caliber, their same values and morals and experiences, because that it breaks down a barrier of communication. It's easier to communicate with someone that has, the same worldview as you do. So it's interesting how that happens. And of course, that leads to all sorts of, prejudice and things. But it's really just a matter of what's the dice they have in your bag.
beautiful. Howard, I wanted to play a clip from one of my self-improvement coaches. His name is Julian Blanc, and it's about authenticity. Is that okay with you? If I play
Oh,
the
yeah,
clip
please.
and get
No,
your
yeah.
take on it as we wrap
Sure.
up?
Great.
Okay. So let me know if you can hear it, or let me know if you can't hear it.
Authenticity meaning stay true to you, as we talked about. And that's a rule. Never betray you. But part of an interaction, part of connecting, is authenticity expression and relatability connection. Where, say right now, I'm like, hey everyone, for me to be authentic, I'm just going to speak in gibberish. The whole event. What would you all say? What the f is this? We're out. Hey, but I'm being authentic.
I want my money.
Right? Yeah, it'd be like, well, we're out of here. So that would be, say, me being authentic, but I'm not worried about it connecting. So then it's asking yourself, what is my intention, say, in an interaction? What's my intention at work? It's to be authentic, but also connect. I want the win-win versus win for me, lose for others. Now, sometimes you won't find the win-win, and that's where, okay, next, I'm out of here. But authenticity is also very nuanced, meaning, say I called my mom right now, right, and just checked in. Hey, how you doing? Am I going to tell her all the details of my life? Yes or no?
No.
Does that mean I'm being fake?
No.
But I'm not telling her all the details. Am I being fake? Get it? So authenticity doesn't mean telling everyone everything. It means I'm never going to compromise me, but depending on the context, depending on the person, here's what I'm going to share. Or here's how much of me I'm going to share.
Yeah. So what's your
I
take
love
on
that.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's great. That really encapsulates, kind of understanding the boundaries of things. And yeah,
Mhm.
being authentic, like you said, like that can mean a lot of different things. But
because he started with saying don't ever compromise that being real, but then
Right.
also
Yeah.
understand connection.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously, there's a certain amount of like maturity in what you're when you communicate to someone. Like a good example that I came up with is that we talk about having good manners. Okay. I asked my aunt this, like, why do I have to have good table manners? This is boring. I'm like, if I was authentic, I would, I would just, throw stuff around the table and I would be rude and everything. But having good manners, there's a reason for this. Okay. So there's a reason we have good manners is because it communicates discipline, focus, and it allows you to communicate better. So it improves your relationship with the other person because you're giving them attention, you're focusing yourself. If I was truly authentic, I wouldn't be able to do that. So it does require some sort of discipline.
I have to jump in with Donald Trump here. Why is Donald Trump so popular? Now, we all know he's a pretty authentic guy, but it's that dice. 50% of people will like him, 50% won't. Howard, let me tell you a story. I went to Florida a couple of years ago, and I was wearing a Trump shirt, and I would get 50-50. Like, man, I would have people, like 50% of people would high-five me, and 50% of people would look away from me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get into politics, but I just want to use him as an example because this is a great example of, I think he's a pretty authentic guy in the sense that he says what sort of is coming out of his mouth.
Well, it's good and bad. I mean, it really works both ways depending on who you're talking to, and all that's really deliberate. And I hate politics. It's just a mess. But
you're saying it's just deliberate on his end.
Well, I mean, he's a smart guy. He's really brilliant, but it seems that he has to talk down to people. I mean, I think I read like the average education of the country is operating like at a seventh grade level.
Yep.
So I often wonder if like he uses those simple words because it's better to communicate with more people.
So you're saying it's calculated on his end?
It very well could be. Yeah. I mean, we don't know. I mean, it's all very done. Like the words they use and so forth. I mean, talking, he sounds like a buffoon, but I can't.
There's something about it is genius.
That's right. So you can present yourself differently in different ways depending on who your audience is. So you can still be authentic, as we're talking about, but you can still control it based upon who you're talking to, who's the audience, how do you respond to them, and kind of better correlate that relationship depending on the circumstances. So I mean, that's a whole different dynamic, but it works.
Exactly, and I don't think he could get away with what he gets away with if he wasn't a billionaire. Right.
Well, that they live in a different world. We make the mistake of thinking this is all fair, but it's George Carlin said it's a big club and we're not in it, and it's we don't even know half the stuff that happens. And I think people are getting a little tired of the double standard that we're seeing. There's a lot going on that I think people get tired of, but. Anyway, that's
yeah. This is not about politics, but
right. I know, but it does relate because again, like they're dealing with different dice. Those politicians and billionaires, they have a completely different worldview, of course, than we do, obviously. But they can control circumstances in ways that we just simply cannot. Life is not fair. That's the reality. That's just the way it is. So all we can do is kind of identify those local things that we can do that to boost up our chances with relationships, practicing good hygiene or working on your posture, things like that just help you bump up those odds a little bit when in your relationships to give you that little bit of edge and give you a better chance. It's not a guarantee, but it helps.
Yeah. And to be fair, Howard, you probably know this about Donald Trump, but he increased his odds by not drinking alcohol, not smoking cigarettes, not doing drugs, whereas his brother did those things and his brother was gone. So just as we're talking about Trump, I had to say that.
Right.
So Howard, as we're wrapping up, where can people find your book? Is it on Amazon? Tell us where they can find you, find your book, and all that stuff.
No, that's great. Yeah, no, I got it. I do have a book. It is on Amazon. It's called The Dice of Life and the Role They Play. I'm not really much of a reader or anything, but it was just a personal challenge for me to kind of put this together and write this down in a way to try to communicate it. It helped me quite a bit just to think of things in that way. I do have a website. It's simply my name, howardminer.com. I'm not too active on social media, so I'm working on it. But so be careful if you follow me because I have no idea where I'm going. But And my website's a little work
I followed
in
you on
progress.
Instagram. What's your Instagram? I follow you.
I don't even think I have
You don't know?
Instagram.
I'll
No.
mention that maybe if
We'll
we
figure
have
that
the show
out later.
notes. But yeah, okay.
But yeah, no, yeah, I'm just kind of figuring this out, just like we all are. I mean, we're all a work in progress and trying to experiment with new things, and just I'm doing the same thing. I'm just throwing some dice out there to see what I'm good at, see what I like, and see what works. So there's a free copy of the book on my website. You can download it for free. I'm not selling it or anything. You can buy it if you want to, but and some other things on there, just random thoughts and gibberish and things. But yeah, you never know. It's just fun to collaborate and try new things. There you go.
And Howard, if you're willing to be on another show, we'll talk about gambling and rolling the dice there. But
There's so many applications to this. Yeah, I love. Yeah, it's just
So many
it
things.
breaks out into so many different and like in business relationships, trying to close a deal. Like you can increase your odds, but there's timing issues and mental health issues. That's another thing. There's people carrying around. I call them dark dice. Just because they're so elusive and people don't even know that they have them sometimes, and they can impact your life in ways you don't even know. So there's a lot of little dimensions to it, but it's just a fun analogy, just a simple one little thought that seems to work out. So there you go.
Howard, thank you so much for being here today, and I hope you have a great rest of your Monday. I'm going to hit stop on the recording. Just hang on 1 second before you go.
Yeah.